So, ladies and gentlemen, the last match, the fourth match, I should say, that was supposed to be played was not. Theognis had a match time to show up to, and he didn't actually show up, so it is a walkover win. It's kind of unfortunate, but that does mean, at the same time, it's unfortunate, but it's awesome because we get an ace match. It is tied up 2-2, and both teams actually sent out really strong Protoss players. We're going to be looking at Sase and Fair. Let's go ahead and get into it, as we already have the ace game going. As I said, Sase Frere starting map is going to be Daybreak. Bottom left-hand corner, we have Sase as the purple Protoss. Top right-hand corner, we have the green Protoss. That is Frere.
Yeah, and so far, Rox really impressing. More like, you know, radical online extremists, more like Gosu online extremists.
There you go.
That's what I think.
All right, so I do want to clarify a little bit, okay? And this is going to be about the betting that we were doing. I bet 7-1, and basically you took the stupidest bet, FireZerg. Like, you bet basically $7 to win $1 that there was going to be a 4-gate. That is, like, absolutely ridiculous. And then you complain about it later.
You're trying to flip these numbers. Like, I don't...
No, you didn't. See, we didn't clarify it. So, like, I knew what I was talking about. You didn't actually ask, and you're like, yeah, snap call. That's why that's why, FireZerg, you need to stop. You're a degenerate gambler, all right? Similar to, like, Cats. And you need help. But Cats doesn't need help. Keep going, Cats. You're awesome. Cats is awesome, by the way.
I've been sharked by some dirty, big city American.
Whoa, whoa. Was that a racist joke?
What? Is American a race?
Yes.
Oh, well then, I suppose it is. I'm so sorry.
Is Canadian a race?
Yeah, well, kind of.
See, there you go. Is German a race?
We're all descended from the same... There's like a lumberjack that mated with a bear.
That's exactly
in the wild,
and it became
where
a
all the
lumber
Canadians
bear.
come from.
Thank you.
Yep.
Genesis. A lumberjack made it with a bear.
So what do we see happening with the build orders?
Nothing. All right. Let's go into it a little bit. A little bit of difference from normal maps. Of course, we do have the double guest that is placed. This is, I think, the standard nowadays, since it's so easy to just force field. You can't actually warp in on ramps or anything like that. It's hard to see up the ramp. So I agree with all of this. I think it is the way to actually go. But in terms of, you know, chrono boost allocations, it's slightly different. We do have, well, it's slightly different in that I think there was one more probe. Was there? Yeah, there was one more chrono boost allocation committed for Sase actually to the Nexus. So that's very, very minor. It happened earlier on. And now both of them are actually just going to be teching pretty hardcore. Actually, wow, Frere is actually going up to 3 gateways. So you have a 1-gate robo. Now this is normally followed up by a 3-gate robo. And you can do a lot of different things, whether it be 3-gate robo expand or 3-gate robo Twilight Council. That's definitely an option that you can go into. Sorry, I'm talking way too much, man.
Oh, no.
Just realized. I'm like, there's so many different things. See, here's, I think, the big woes about PvP, and I was actually talking to Night End about this, is that there are a lot of different builds that counter, like hard counter. It's like this 3-gate Twilight Council. I think Sase is doing the best type of opening possible to actually counter this, and that's going to be some sort of 2-gate or 3-gate robo expand, because you get the power of those immortals in there, and you really make it so difficult for your opponent to actually do any hard damage. Like, they can't really do tons and tons of damage because the immortals are just so powerful. They kill the blink suckers so fast. So this is one of the biggest problems, and from here, I think Frere is going to have a very difficult position, although there is a robotics bay that's being thrown down. That's very, very interesting. Yeah,
so fast blink, robotics bay. Are we going to see that good old blink up onto the high ground using observer?
Yeah, precisely. Precisely. Okay. And you know, I don't think it's that good on this map. Maybe on a map like Antigua Shipyard or Shakur's Plateau, it's a little bit better. But definitely on Daybreak, it's going to be very difficult to actually get huge kills because you only have this small little tiny place where you can actually blink up, and it's right near the natural. So normally your opponent will be able to, or Sase will be able to react in time. Now, let me go ahead and check. Sase is able to get the first observer over here, and he's going to lose it as well, but he sees the blink stalkers coming out. He sees the very high stalker count as well, and he knows exactly how to prepare for this. There he goes, adding on additional gateways. He's up to 4 gateways, and he's actually just going to be producing immortals and observers, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely everything that Freyr's doing is indicating that he wants to be the aggressor. There's this forward pylon, there's a slightly lower probe count, there's the potential for a second, even more forward pylon with this probe with the natural, and here he is moving out. Wow,
Gravitic Drive is actually being upgraded, and this is to actually just relinquish a little bit of the pressure that he's going to have, and I love this type of play. What you basically do is take advantage of your opponent's mobility with them being all the way out in the, and they have sort of like a false sense of security, and you have a War Prism in the back of your opponent's main. You can obviously just hold off anything that actually happens, and you just ravage your opponent's economy line. It's a really, really efficient way to just stop these Blink Stalkers from doing all too much damage. It brings back a wave of units, probably Stalkers into the back of the main, and then all of a sudden you have a lot less units that can actually do damage, and your Immortals become that much stronger there.
This Nexus I find very interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about what the thought process is behind that?
Well, it's similar to something like PvT, or TvP rather, where medevacs are actually doing a ton of damage. You know, and more so giving a lot of space to yourself. You know, gives the Terran a lot of space. The Blink Stalkers are accomplishing the same thing. It keeps your opponent inside the base, and from there, even though you have less units than your opponent, because the counterattack threat is there, you can go ahead and do a ton of or you can go ahead and take a lot of economy from this. But you can see that the first drop has commenced, and a couple of Zealots will get out here, snipe away at a couple of those probes. That's really, really important. But you can see that all the map position, or all the map control that Freyr originally had is completely gone, and Sase is going to now get a lot of space, a lot of position, and move up with these Immortals, and this is going to be very difficult for Freyr to actually do something. Oh, Sase actually losing the War Prism. That's pretty gigantic, actually.
No, and this push does not seem as though it's positioned to do very well.
Yeah, it's kind of weird right now. He definitely needed that extra force to come in. I don't know why he's actually continuing on to attack here, because obviously there is the defensive advantage over here for Freyr. So he's just basically sacking all of his units for no reason. And obviously not a great position now for Sase, because he's behind an expansion. Now what is he going to go? He's going to go for the Colossus tech and just mass up on gateway units. I mean, he has only one move and one move alone, and that will be to all in. And if Freyr actually identifies that, he should just chrono boost completely towards units. Let's go ahead and look at the unit income tab. 31 to 30. It's actually not that big of a difference. The second base doesn't really do much for him, but if he stabilizes, he'll be absolutely fine. I think if he techs up to something like robotics, actually he has that, I think. Robotics Bay? Yes, he does. He can just get Colossus at this point. I think he'll be great. I don't think getting Immortals is really that important. There you go. He's doing that.
So, advantage to Freyr so far?
Yeah, definitely an advantage to Freyr, but Sase, by no means is he out of this. I mean, 37 Harvesters now for Freyr, so he's moving up in the Harvester world. But you can see that that income disparity is very minimal, and we can see the first Colossus is going to get over here. Now, he does need to do a little bit of damage, and this is a great timing to actually do that. While his opponent doesn't really have any capabilities of doing anything, he needs his Colossus. There's the Colossus that comes out. So it looks like Freyr is going to survive this. And Sase misses his timing. Oh, maybe not. War Prism. I like this. This is really, really smart. He's going to use his War Prism, obviously, to do some multi-prong harass. And all Sase needs to do is reduce the probe count. If he can reduce the probe count, he's fine. He's absolutely fine. Even this mining time that he's doing to his opponent is absolutely fine as well. So
yeah, in the meantime, though, keep an eye on this pylon at the South Base Natural.
Oh, yes.
Oh, boy.
Freyr being so smart. And this is not going to bode well for our Quantic hero over here. He's going to lose a lot of probes. Poor guy. 3 probes actually go down. And
yeah, we see this very cute, very close to Valentine's Day. There's an observer actually inside this warp prism. They're just cuddling up right there. So that warp prism not going to be doing any sneak attacks anytime soon.
Ain't no thing, man.
Look at that, isn't that adorable? Oh, he's not actually trained onto it, so warp prism just gets away from him.
Looks like this warp prism is actually going to get blinked on. And Sase needs to be so careful. Almost goes down at that position, but that one zealot is able to drop out. Now there's 2 different positions that he has to be careful of, but a big sandwich coming on right here. And if Frere doesn't actually identify this, he needs to move back immediately because all these units are getting damaged quite a bit. Now finally units blinking down to the bottom. Sase is actually going to drop directly on top of his opponent. Probes are going to come out here. Is it going to be enough? Those probes are going to be zoned out with really nice force fields. And from there, the cluster can do a ton of damage, but Frere is in a lot of trouble at this point. Is he actually going to do a counterattack? No, because there's a Colossus and 2 Zealots over there. So Frere in a terrible position, but he does have 2 Colossus now. He is ahead in Harvester, so let's see. The battle has actually begun, and Sase does need to kill a little bit more. Ooh, the Warp Prism dies. TT.
Yeah, during that attack, and actually during the Warp Prism was flying around, it got blunk, but during that, this pylon at the natural warped in more Zealots and absolutely cleaned out the mineral line at the natural, and this is why we see 19 out 20 probes only for Sase.
Yeah, and just like that, Sase is behind. I thought he was ahead with that engagement, but yeah, I did notice when I went to the income tab, it was significantly less, so I know there had to have been Zealot pressure. So really nice multi-pronged harass going on with Frere's just unit control overall, and Sase is going to back up here. He is behind, though, 65 supply to 87, 88 now. And he doesn't really have the capacity to do too much. He does have thermal lancers. Both of them have thermal lance, so they can do a little bit of micro shenanigans. But you know, at this point, I think it's going to be very, very hard for Sase to come back up in this, because for him to do anything, he needs like the best micro possible. And on top of that, it's like a difficult decision. Does he actually mass up in units at this point, or does he go for additional economy? And that's going to be the big decision for him, as he's warping in units. There you go.
Yeah, I would offer you an esports dollar bet at this point, but I don't think either of us would be taking Sase here. So I won't.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Sase. Doesn't mean that he's behind, but that income is definitely hurting him. 12 harvesters. That represents a ton of minerals over his opponent. I believe it's somewhere around 400, 500 almost, and here we go. The first engagement is going to start here, and great spread actually by Sase, but is it going to be enough? That's the big question. The Stalkers obviously need to spread a little bit more, but no, with too many gateway units at this point, the Immortals are actually targeting down the Colossus. Now finally Colossus on Colossus. That's it. GG goes out. A really nice harass, I think, by Frere overall, especially with that one pylon over there. I have to say, Sase had a really good build, but I think pushing forward after the Warp Prism got denied, I think that was really, really tough for him. I don't think there was a big timing there. If he went and took it as expansion, I think it would have been a lot better, because basically what you're doing is you're forcing your opponent to be so far back. Yes, you can do a little bit of damage, but I don't think he kind of lost his time to do that. What you want is multi-pronged harass, so that obviously the Warp Prism can do damage in the main, and your opponent has to split up the army. You know, it was just really, really kind of weird, but Sase, I think, could have expanded at that point instead of going for just this huge amount of aggression where it's equal Immortals against equal Immortals, but your opponent has Blink Stalkers and you don't. So that's a really difficult decision, difficult point in time, I think, for Sase, where obviously going for the expansion, I know in hindsight you can say it was a much easier move to make, but I'm sure at the heat of the moment it was very difficult to actually say that, okay, I can kind of sit back and macro from here.
Yeah, I think Sase actually kind of got played that game, just with the way the build orders ended up working out. Reminded me a lot of a move that you saw time and time again in PvP in Brood War, and actually taking a glance at Frere's Wikipedia page, he got to B+, A- on IC Cup in Brood War.
Yeah, he's freaking good.
Yeah. Had something to do with, you know, you get an observer out, you kill it off, your opponent's making reavers, you're making dragoons, you look like you're going to be aggressive, then you expand. There's anyways, without going into any of that, essentially, I think Frere was showing all the signs of an aggressive player, slightly lower drone count, forward pylon, not necessarily that Sase was aware of that, but the observer gets in and sees what's going on. There's blinks upgrading, and he sees the observer coming up. So he knows that he is one of those things that he knows, since he's seen the observer, that is Frere, that his opponent's going to be absolutely ready. He knows he has a robotic spay, he knows he's making mortals, and he's going to be able to defend with that. So he cuts his losses and takes the Nexus, something Sase was not at all expecting.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that Sase did have the perfect build, actually, for Frere. I mean, that build, I think, completely, I wouldn't say counters, but deals with Blinkstalkers very effectively, and it sets you off into that mid-game really nicely, where you have a good immortal count, and your opponent really doesn't have the capacity to do that because they need to get the robotics bay, they need to get additional immortals. So I think there were a lot of critical things where, you know, he could have hit the timings a little bit earlier, especially with that early game push with the 2 immortals, and also he could have been a little bit more diligent in choosing where to actually drop with that Warp Prism Harass. Those are the two things. If I want to be super, super critical about it, but...
yeah, he certainly could have been, but I think all the credit goes to Frere for seeing that observer and recognizing what he was going to run into, and shifting gears very, very quickly, very decisively, and Sase was not ready for that.
Yeah, he played that really well. So we're going to go into game number 2 in this ace match, ladies and gentlemen. So be prepared. Potential game point right now, or it is game point right now for Rox.Kis. So if they take this, they will take the clan war, but not if Sase has anything to say about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after the break.